Evening guys, welcome to another devotional. Today we are going to be in Ecclesiastes chapter 4 verse 13, which says, "It is better to be a poor but wise youth than an old and foolish king who refuses all advice." It clearly puts two opposing people against each other, saying, hey, you've got a poor youth who has wisdom, and you've got a rich king, but he has no wisdom. And actually says that the poor youth is better off because they have wisdom. Clearly showing us how, if you have wisdom, that is far better than having all of the gold and all the power. Because wisdom is far more valuable. It's actually a lot harder to come by a lot of the time. True wisdom is a lot harder to come by than money. How this world will chase riches and power, and it's part of this world system. We get caught up in it so often, but what the Lord desires isn't that we get rich and that we have lots of power, but what God desires is, hey, get wisdom. Seek after me. Get wisdom, because that is far more valuable than any amount of gold or any amount of power, and that will affect your life in far better ways than any gold and any amount of power ever can. And we see the effects of that, like with government, for instance. If the government makes a poor decision with lacking wisdom, it affects not just themselves, with the inner turmoil there, but it also affects the lives of other people, those who might be affected by those poor decisions. And no amount of gold really covers that. No amount of power really fixes those problems. Because at the end of the day, wisdom first has to come in and say, this was a wrong decision, we need to try and fix that, before any amount of gold can do any amount to helping to solve or helping towards some form of solution. Meanwhile, someone who might not have much can actually say, I'm just going to make a good decision. And they continue walking in those good decisions, in that wisdom, and they find that they enrich their own life, but they also enrich the lives of other people. You actually have friends because people want to be your friend, because you're actually a nice person to get along with. You make good decisions. You're not horrible to other people, you know? How wisdom is actually far more valuable because it's benefiting your life in far better ways than any amount of gold or power ever will. Riches can help us to do things, great, sure, they're a tool there, but wisdom is what will truly improve our lives. Ecclesiastes 7 verse 12 says, "Wisdom and money can get you almost anything, but only wisdom can save your life." If you're stood at the edge of a cliff, and you've got to make a decision, okay, am I going to lean towards the cliff or am I going to lean away from the cliff? No amount of riches will help you. You need wisdom to say, I'm going to make a good decision here and lean away from the cliff so I don't fall down that cliff. Wisdom that's from God is what will save our lives, truly, eternally. That wisdom that comes from the Lord to say, actually, Jesus Christ has given his life. Like now, as we're celebrating Christmas. Jesus Christ came to earth 2,000 years ago and then lived a sinless life, died a sinner's death upon a cross, and then calls us to trust upon the finished work of the cross, so that our sin in our own lives can then be cleansed, can then be washed clean by the blood of the Lamb who died for us 2,000 years ago and then raised himself from the dead. That is the wisdom that God calls us to look to, the great wisdom that the Lord calls us to look at and to walk in, and then calls us to continue looking to him, like it says in James, continue asking him for wisdom, and he will freely give us that wisdom to live out our lives. How is best really for us to be living our lives? And it tells us about that wisdom in James 3 verse 17. It says, "But the wisdom from above is first of all pure. It is also peace-loving, gentle at all times, and willing to yield to others. It is full of mercy and the fruit of good deeds. It shows no favoritism and is always sincere." That's the kind of wisdom that we should be seeking more than these riches and the power that is in this world. We should be seeking the wisdom that comes from God. What is pure, what is peaceable, what is gentle, what is not proud. And we see that wisdom is actually found in the Lord, because the wisdom that comes from the world isn't that. It isn't pure. It isn't humble. It isn't gentle a lot of the time. It isn't peaceable a lot of the time. But the peace that comes from the Lord is those things. That is the pure wisdom that comes from the Lord, and that is the wisdom that we want to seek, and the Lord calls us to seek. And that is the wisdom that when the Lord says, hey, it is better to be a poor but wise youth. Let's get that kind of wisdom, not just the wisdom that this world wants to give us, but the wisdom that the creator of the universe, the one who knows the past, present and future, what wisdom he wants to give to us instead. So that's an encouragement for all of us tonight, to chase after the wisdom that comes from the Lord and to pursue him and his wisdom rather than what this world has to offer. So God bless you guys. Good